All right, so let's get into today's topic, which is again tracking Google Business Profile success using UTM parameters. So first, here's our agenda that we're going to cover. We're going to talk about just how to get started with this, how to create your URL with UTM parameters. We'll get into what that means in a minute. How to add this specialty URL into Google Business Profiles. What happens when we get into Google Analytics. How your custom URLs can give you better info in Google Search Console, and then some final thoughts on what you can do with these UTMs. Now, first, let's talk about getting started and a little bit more about what UTM parameters even are. So UTM actually stands for Urchin Tracking Module, all right? People always ask me, what does UTM stand for? It's Urchin Tracking Module, and UTM parameters are a name value pair of info that's added into a URL in the links that you put out there that pass custom information about that particular link into Google Analytics and into other tools. And the reason it's called Urchin Tracking Module is Urchin was actually an analytics tool before Google owned it, and Google bought them out and created Google Analytics, and has obviously been evolving that since they bought it out. But they kept the UTM name as part of it. So Urchin is just a predecessor of Google Analytics and supported out of the box within Google Analytics. Now, UTMs, while they're helpful for tracking clicks from Google Business Profiles into Analytics, they're also really useful in Google Search Console, other SEO tools like SEMrush, Ahrefs, and the like, because they create a custom URL that can be tracked separately, even though it's going to the same page as something else. It now can help you determine where your website visitor came from, and it can include things like the source of that URL, what medium was used, and maybe a campaign name that you're putting out there. We'll get into all those details in just a few minutes, but a lot of value shows up in that. So, what do these UTM parameters consist of? Well, there's actually 6 different pieces that you can add into your link, your URL, to track things. The first 3 are required and really the heart of this thing. So the first thing is your UTM source. This is the refer. This is really identifies the advertiser, the site, the publication, whatever it is that's sending traffic to your property. So maybe it's Google, maybe it's social media, maybe it's an email. So your source is the source of the referral that's coming to your website. Where is it coming from? The medium is the marketing medium, right? This is the advertising or marketing medium. So it might be, maybe it's coming from Google, but it's coming from Google Business Profile. Maybe it's coming from Google, but it's coming from their CPC or from a banner or from a newsletter. Maybe your source is social and the medium is Facebook. Okay, something like that. And you have a campaign. And the campaign is sort of the individual name, slogan, whatever you're promoting, right? So if I'm doing, let's say I'm doing a Black Friday deal, I might have my campaign name that says Black Friday, 2024 Black Friday event. Maybe the source is Google. Maybe the medium is going to be, a banner ad or something, or a paid ad or something. So those 3 things are going to be your primaries. We're going to give you lots of examples in a few moments, so don't fret about that just yet. The other 3 parameters that you can use are optional. First one is UTM term. And this is typically for page search only, and it's a way to put the keyword for this ad, or for the ads that are going out there. You have UTM content. This is to differentiate similar content or similar links within the same ad. So lots of times in like paid ads, you may be using slightly different groups in there. You can maybe use it as a group or put a keyword. So if you had like 2 call to action links within the same email message, maybe you have one at the top and one at the bottom. You can differentiate it with content. And again, I've used these like UTM content for different things. You can use it for whatever you want, really. For me, at one point, we were putting in our newsletter. We wanted to track where people were clicking, and we had an image of let's say of a meeting that was coming up. We had a text line of that same that meeting, and then we had a button, and we tracked them differently by saying, "Hey, source is the newsletter or email, the medium was a newsletter, and the content was going to be button, or the content was link, or the content was graphic," and it let us determine within this particular newsletter which of these things did people click on. And so UTM parameters are really, really good about allowing you to really know what are people clicking on within a piece of content to give you an idea of what's generating those clicks, what's actually getting people to do something, to take action. And the campaign ID, it's a newer parameter. It's not necessary. This is actually going to primarily be used for Google Analytics 4 when you're uploading data, when you're doing a data import, because you can do that with GA4. You can do it in the Google user analytics from back in the day, universal analytics, excuse me, from back in the day. That's now been phased out. So the campaign ID allows you to combine campaigns and bring it into Analytics 4. So for example, maybe you sold towels, online, but you also had a stand out in Clearwater somewhere, right? And you sold towels directly from there. You may have a different tracking tool to see how many towels you sold in the week, out on the, on a at a marketplace event or something, and then import that data into Google Analytics 4 so you can kind of understand what's happening there. Now, what's interesting is that the URL that you're linking to that will include these UTM parameters is also required to form the complete link, but it's not an actual UTM parameter. And I'll show you what I mean in a minute.